Yeah, so group mentality is kind of a challenge. It's kind of interesting to think about how it develops and who kind of sets the tone for a group. Um, is there some, person or group of people, a small finite amount that is influenced how it all works, or is it kind of a group, like a collective decision by all the people participating? I'm not really sure about how it works beneath the surface. I just do know that it's effective.
Yeah.
Uh, People are able to do great things together when they buy into that group mentality. Professional athletes, uh, like the military, they're doing crazy stuff, and it's by this cohesive buy-in to we do stuff this way here. If you don't do stuff like this, I'm sorry, but somehow that creates elite level people who compete at a high level. Now there's individuals who compete at a high level in a different way. In those group mentality things I'm talking about are kind of more of a physical things that they're doing. They're playing football. They're going through boot camp and being super strong and becoming Navy SEALs and stuff. There's intellectuals who become elite who don't have to be part of a group.
Yeah, I think that like those are like scenarios too where like good things are happening from the group mentality sometimes, right? Or sometimes maybe somebody could get excluded because they do something a different way, right? And they can't make it to the top in the societal constraints that are built around that group because they're the majority and they control this side or this aspect of society, right? Whether it's like in entertainment, politics, the workforce, right? Like if somebody does something different, even if it is like more effective, someone could say, well, that's not how it's done around here and we don't accept that. And then the group mentality, although already being effective, can turn into a negative thing because it starts isolating people who are different and saying if you don't conform to one of these groups, you just can't function in this society because
Mm-hmm.
you'll be alone. And it kind of like becomes this not necessarily an evil thing. Like it's built that way so that society functions somewhat smoothly, right? But it's also it's kind of it's kind of a system that just absorbs people or spits them out in a way,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's kind of a tragic thing that's evolved as time has gone on.
Yeah, I would say that I totally get what you're saying. Um, and I've actually, I've been there and thought like that. One thing that I would kind of say that I learned to make me kind of look at things maybe in a more optimistic way is there are groups large and small, but if you say the entertainment industry is like this, and if you don't act like this, then you're going to be spit out. It is the power of the power that people hold in the entertainment industry is dispersed among bunch of different areas in genres of what the media is: movies, TV shows, there's late night shows, then there's music, and there's Broadway, and there's all these different things. Even if you just look at it in that perspective, there's different things that those groups accept. And then within that, then there's different companies within each medium. So I think it is a little bit more broken up than just saying, if you're not like this in this industry, you're going to be spit out. But I would say as a whole, there's some kind of rigid guidelines that usually is going to be successful. So I've heard it go both ways. I was listening to a podcast with Mark Normand. He's a comedian. Have you heard of him?
No, no, I haven't.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. Hilarious. But he was talking about how he felt kind of the pressures of that, and he knew that if he wanted to do the comedy that he wanted to do, he would have to do a little bit more of generic comedy to get some people at the ground level, and people who are working in companies that do promotion, and they would put him on spots with more of a generic comedy, but with the end goal of kind of getting his thing in. So if you look at things objectively, like straightforward, like if the only way I'm going to be successful here is if I recognize the guidelines, see them for truly what they are, and then based on that, just make a straightforward decision and say, well, if I want to do what I want to do, it may require me, quote unquote, conforming in some way. But if you retain your true identity in conforming, then it doesn't become your identity. The conforming doesn't become your identity. It becomes something that you do as a tool to get what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as like the way that society works right now, I think that's probably honestly the best way to go about it, because there does come a point where like it would be nice if like we could like just basically be like, oh, like everyone can like just, be their own unique person, right? And like we can just focus on like people like when it matters, but I don't think society is really constructed to operate like that, at least not currently, right? So in the current climate, right? Because you can't just go and say I'm going to do this, and if everyone else says no, then it's just you basically screaming out into a bunch of people who have their backs turned the other way, right? So you almost do have to, again, like conform, keep your own identity, and then once you make it to a place where you really can like foster something yourself, right? And with other people, then that's what you have to wait for. I mean, again, it's not, I don't think it's like, it's, there's still like a hint of like, I feel like tragedy that has to happen, but it's also necessary, because I mean, I don't have any answers as to how like society could like do a flip and change so that everybody got like the chance to express their true selves, out in society. Like I don't know how that change could spark,
Do you think
because
there are people who are living as their true selves in society currently?
I think there's people who definitely they do what they want, and either it works out well for them through like a series of like chances, or sometimes it doesn't. And some people, I think, you see people that are bothered by that, the fact that people won't accept them and that they can't, it's harder for them to traverse the ground that everybody else does, because there is more resistance to them going against the fold, right? And you can see that frustration from those people, and then other people somehow they make it after, just traveling through the rough terrain, being a trailblazer. Um,
Yeah, I think that definitely happens, and then I think also sometimes what people want, their truest selves, is easy to express based on the structure of how things are set up right now. And like for someone to be a true creative and be able to express themselves, we have to take in what the landscape of what is currently going on and play with those textures, right? So there is something to be said about wanting to create something new, but then also at the same time, if it's completely new, then nobody is going to understand it. So that's the game that I play, of kind of bouncing back and forth of like, what are people going to like? Because I want to, it's sort of a transaction about my creativity. It's about expression, but it's also about connection with other people, and kind of playing with ideas that people have. So if I don't fully understand what people are, where people are at, and what kind of the guidelines of what people of the quote unquote society has set up, then I'm not able to generate uh, my art or my ideas or my expression to affect those people who are living by these rules.
yeah, I think that's something that's common among like people like who are in a creative field, right? Like music, art, um entertainment, comedy, anything like that. I think everyone experiences that like kind of a conflict, right? Like where you're looking at like what's out there, right? And you're looking at what's maybe popular and you're looking at what you want to do, what you like to do. Maybe you find something that you think is really cool, but maybe you're like it's not really something that's like that's big out there right now. Or maybe there's only like, maybe you think to yourself, you're like, there's probably only like, 15 people, which of course is like, being a little bit drastic,
Mhm.
but only 15 people that would like this one thing that I would like to do or that
Mhm.
I'm finding while I'm exploring the field that I'm interested in, the creative field,
Sure.
right? I think that's something super common in music. I definitely noticed that as well.